record and see what happens. Fuck it.
Live, ready to rumble.
It's time.
360.
Mate. I can't do that, bro. I'm jacked into the Matrix, bro. I've got no Bluetooth on there. That whole 360 thing is like it's a treasure. It
is. It's a beautiful thing because he was the 180 originally, wasn't it? And then he tried out the 360 with Joe Rogan, and it evolved.
It seems like Joe Rogan like bullied him into it, honestly.
Kind of did. And what's kind of cool about it is like he kind of did it as like he was making a mistake, wasn't he? He was looking at the red corner when he was starting to call the blue corner. So in his brain, he was like, I need to turn really fast to make this look okay and acceptable. And then he does it, and it turns into a thing. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, it turns into the greatest moment in MMA history. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. He's been doing that for fucking like what 25 years or something.
Yeah, like since it started 25 years ago. Do you know what's really weird? Have you watched the thing on his backstory, his history?
No, I know that he came from the boxing world, but I don't know too much about him. The only story I've heard is that one where he gets into a fight with who is it, Frankie Trigg or someone in the lift.
In the lift, and sparks him. Well, I think he hit him. They get into it, don't they? And it's like back and forth.
Yeah, it's like got Dana on it. It's when
he's there. He's like, I know that my boss knows that I'm not a pushover.
Yeah.
He's a joker.
And like Dana's just stood there like, oh shit, it's on.
He's like, I'm not used to being this close to the action. There's usually a cage around.
Serious.
That's his life. Yeah, with his backstory, he's the brother of the really famous boxing introducer as well.
Yeah,
so,
Michael Buffer. They only found each other like late though, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like they're half brothers, but they didn't know about it until Bruce started getting into, because he was his brother's like promoter or whatever, like his manager. And then like kind of shortly after he found out who his brother was, and then just started doing it himself when the UFC started, like, oh, I think I can probably do this.
Yeah, and then turns out like that family just breed people who are really good at shouting other people's names.
Voice box is 17 times bigger than anybody else's.
Mate, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad. I'd love to actually like see what that guy's larynx looks like. I bet his throat like wrecks after those events though. Like you got to think like what 10, 12 fights or something of just pure shouting.
He just got 17 packets of Strepsils in his pockets all the time. He's just always sucking on a Strepsil.
He's like the new poster boy for Lemsips. I need a Lemsip.
You got a sore throat. Get one of these.
You're making him sound like Batman, bro. Like Bruce Batman.
17 wins from Gotham City.
Where are the other drugs going?
The sore throat's the loser.
Oh shit. He's got like the best job in the world though, if you think about it.
It's a pretty cushy job, innit? He doesn't do much really, does he? He just shouts really loud for 20 seconds, reads off a card, and makes it look stylish. It's probably the hardest part of his job is probably going to get a spanky new suit every month.
Yeah, I was about to say that myself. Yeah, like he's so well dressed.
They can't come cheap, you know.
No man, I wish I had that level of swag, bro. I wish I had the confidence to dress like that. But that's the kind of confidence that comes with being in a cage with killers every night and being the one that they somehow all respect simultaneously.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. He's an interesting character.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, bro. To be fair, like there's a lot of like really interesting characters in that whole world. Like,
you kind of have to be.
Strange people, bro, for the most part. Strange people.
Yeah, man. It's like, do you know what I found? Like, a lot of people that get into mixed martial arts, not all of them, but quite a lot of them do it because they've been bullied or they've like been a bit of a misfit in their life.
Mm.
I've never really told you my mixed martial arts story. I mean, I got bullied quite badly at school, at like primary school, because I was ginger, curly hair, freckles, and I went to school in the forest fields. So it was like there weren't many white people in the school. Or it was like I was like an ethnic minority within the school,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I get that.
I also kind of was like in a minority group, but then I also stood out like a sore thumb being ginger. I was like the only ginger guy. So it was mostly Asian guys that used to come and bully me and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just like one time I must have gone home and like I was crying to my mom or whatever, and she was like, and my brother and sister's dad, I sort of said to her, "Oh, let's get him into mixed martial arts because you know it'll give him some confidence and stuff like that." And like a lot of people, whether it's like Adesanya, GSP, they all got bullied. Mike Tyson, they all got bullied at school, and it's kind of like I've got a theory. A lot of people that sort of act really hard at school, they never really had a fight because they kind of never had to because people kind of default respected them. So a lot of the time, it's like people like a really good explanation of this example of this is Canelo. Like, who's ginger in Mexico, right? Like nobody. So like, if he'd just been like a normal Mexican guy, like black hair, dark skin, he wouldn't have been like the fighter he is now because he wouldn't have had to go through all the adversity at school.
Yeah.
Of like the reason he's probably is a boxer is because of all like the fights he got into as a young man, defending himself because of all the stuff, you know, the shit he got basically. So it's like, and when you hear him talk about that again, it's like, yeah, like I had 3 fights a day at school. Like that's why I'm a fighter now because I just grew up fighting. And I mean, for myself, like, I did judo and jujitsu and stuff, and it definitely gave me confidence. Like I went around the playground and like all the people that bullied me, I was like judo tossing them and stuff. Like, yeah, here's freckle face now, and I was loving it. I was like, wow, suddenly I've got all this power. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was cool.
Bang.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, kind of like sadistic, but it was fun. It was just getting my own back, and then it was kind of like, yeah, it's done. Just leave me alone now.
Yeah, of course, man. You know what? Like, I don't think anyone can blame like a victim of bullying for trying to get a bit of fucking revenge, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's sweet. It's sweet revenge.
I mean, like that. It just kind of goes to show that like violence kind of creates more violence. You know what I mean? But you didn't deserve it, bro.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
that's they did. They warranted it.
Yeah, I mean, what the good thing of it that martial arts tells you though and teaches you that it's not about hurting your opponent or the person. Like these, I wasn't like getting them on the ground and battering them. I was just like holding them down and being like, look, don't think you can bully me anymore because it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just like sending a message. So it's that self-defense thing, and that's like you get what's amazing. Like even in my little time, kind of obviously as a kid, I did judo, jiu-jitsu, and did a few tournaments and stuff. But I got a really bad injury when I was like 9 or 10. Like I was in like a white belt in 6 stripes. I'd only done like a few tournaments and stuff. But I was about to go to Belgium and like have this like really like I was really excited. It was like I think the second time I've ever been abroad. I was like really excited, and I got like a really bad injury. I was like sparring with this girl actually, yellow belt girl. I remember it. It's mad like yesterday. These 2 blonde twins, and you basically in judo you had to just replicate throwing each other on the ground lots of times, and basically whilst one of us was throwing the other, I just landed weird on my ankle and my tendon just came detached in my foot. So you know how your foot moves up and down. So the kind of main tendon there just came detached.
Yeah, so it sounds like that little girl really did a number on you, bro.
Oh, she battered me, mate. She absolutely had me up. I was crying over mate, all the way there. Honestly, it's the worst thing I've ever felt. So basically, I basically wussied out after that. I was like, yeah, forget my mixed martial arts. I'm going to play football, man, like when I recovered. So, and I kind of always regretted doing that because, you know, I loved it and I was pretty good at it as well. Like, I always think, oh, I could have been, you know, you never know. But anyway.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah, the moral of the story is kind of, last year I started training again. I was like, I'm like 30, but you never know, man. I could be like Randy Couture in it, like 45-year-old champ. You just never know.
Could
so
like
I obviously started training.
Yeah, it could be like a Daniel Cormier kind of situation, like.
Exactly. So I was like, there's part of me that still believed. You know what I mean? I was like, it could have been me. It could have been me. And I was like, I'm gonna go back and train. So the UFC gym came to Nottingham, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, man. I'm gonna do it. Anyway, I started training, and it's like I was training like 3-4 hours a day in it. So like, I'd go to work, I cycle to work, and then work 9 to 5, then cycle there, and then I do like Thai kickboxing, wrestling, and then like an hour in the gym, or it'll be like jiu-jitsu and something else, or yoga, all different types of classes, and then gym work. I'd be in there for like 3 hours, and you use so much of your life, and like it consumes you in it. Like working a normal job, then doing that. I wasn't getting home to eat till like 10 o'clock at night, and it's like the grind that you've got to put into it to get to it, to even. I mean, obviously, if you're full time and it's your job, it's just like you're doing the 9 to 5, or you're doing 2 sessions a day, and that's it. But trying to do it with working as well, which is what some guys have to do in the start of it, it's just incredible. Like the grind that they have to go through, and for me, it was just music one, because I was like, I could be using my evenings for music, and I love music more. But yeah, the kind of thing that I wanted to really say is that the people that I've sort of met through all those experiences, there's a real difference of characters of like stereotypical hard man, or like your complete opposite end of the spectrum, kind of like someone that's got into it because they want to defend themselves and because they've had a hard time, or what no matter what the kind of personality was like, the general thing was still respect, and that's what was really nice. It's like you could sort of spar with a guy, you could do all this kind of stuff, but after you just, it's shit. You shake your hands and you bow, and it just what I think it does for a lot of kids, especially like in the inner city that perhaps don't have the role models, it really does give them like a shining light to guide them, and give them wisdom, and give them the morals and values that they perhaps don't get at home. So it's such a brilliant sport, man. That's why I love it more than anything else. Like sometimes I watch UFC and I don't even enjoy the violence that much, like a sadistic. I don't like seeing people get destroyed. I mean, it's not nice to see. I like seeing the technical aspect and the respect and the excitement of who's the better mixed martial artist. It's not like
yeah, absolutely.
Like
it gets a bit hard sometimes to watch a guy like get pinned down and like battered the fuck out of for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It's never nice. But there's a bit of you that's sort of like, well, it's peak for him that he's probably gonna have a headache for like 3 weeks now, the poor guy. But at the same time, like he wanted to be there, innit? Yeah, he wanted to be there, bro.
That's why I can justify in it, because it's like these people have signed up. They know what it's about and they signed up for it. So
it's then a sport.
But it's it's always like for me, it's always like a battle with myself when I'm watching it, because it's like I'm loving seeing you do this, but I do feel sorry for the other guy or the other woman or whatever. Like it's because it is a bit of a violent, sadistic, crazy, masochistic sport, but I love it because it's kind of the polar opposites of the fact that it's so violent, yet it's so peaceful and respectful, and there's 2 opposite ends of the spectrum that exist within that universe,
Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, to be fair though, like, I wouldn't feel too bad about it, because at least like the fighters are getting something out of it. I mean, even if they lose, like they wanted to be there. It's their like passion in it. Like there's more people. Yeah. There's more people who watch like videos of guys breaking the back or whatever on YouTube for like 5 hours than there are who watch UFC. So that person in that video got nothing out of that, bro. They got nothing in it.
They are funny though, to be fair, man. They are funny. Like
of course, bro.
Like best fails of 2020 or whatever.
Have you been on Derek Lewis's Instagram?
I do follow him, but I don't see too much stuff. I know he posts a lot of hilarious stuff.
Just like all videos like that, like guys breaking the back and like falling off bikes and shit, and it just always says he's okay, and you're like, no, that person's dead, bro. that person died just then.
It's not nice, man. I mean, you can watch some really crazy stuff on the internet. I guess we won't get into that, but yeah, it's not the worst thing you could be doing with your time. It's just like I think I basically try to. Part of me also going back to martial arts was like getting all of that kind of angry side out of me that I know I've been liable for in the past and I've made mistakes. So it's kind of like not wanting to ignite that fire or to kind of use it in the right way. Do you know what I mean?
Right, like you were going on like Mike Tyson, bro, when he was saying that he didn't want to start training because he didn't want the ego to come back out.
I don't want the ego.
Turn into a destroyer.
You need to stay humble.
Stay humble, baby.
Kind of like that. It is kind of like
that. That's like the goal in 2021 right now, bro. Stay humble. Like shit, we got
always the goal, man. Always the goal, man.
Got nothing to brag about right now. Look at us. I'm
you know
black
what
and
I
white.
We've got everything to brag about. We're still here, baby.
Yeah, man, we made
you know what? You're not actually black and white at all. You're just slightly faded in the colours.
It looks black and white on my screen, mate. Like my curtains like orange and shit, bro.
Well, to me they're like turquoise grey with some strips of white.
Yeah, you know what, bro? I hate to break it to you. That's black and white.
No, it's really not.
Really?
And, really, and I can really see your chair is wooden, so I can see that's like a.
Oh, that's weird. That's weird, bro. You're right. It's not black and white.
Yeah, it's not.
It's weird, bro. Because like the way that I'm looking at it though, mate, it looks like I'm in black and white now, but like behind me isn't. Oh no, it's all coming into focus now, bro.
Showed you the light, man.
Show me the light. Show me the spectrum of colours. Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah, I guess it's because you're used to seeing it in like with your normal eyes, whereas I'm seeing it for the first time. So it's like those colours don't look peculiar to me. They just look blue and brown and shades of bluey green. Whereas to you, they're like not bright enough. So
yeah,
I understand why it's stuff like that.
You know what? Like this.
We're just colourblind.
This laptop. Well, there's probably that. This laptop is. It's kind of like a German person in a way. Like it's not many bells and whistles, but it's efficient. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's a solid type. We'll be kicking it off like
that. Well, no, I had that experience that I got. I love the Germans, man. Like they sell me some really good guitars every now and again. Go on that Thomann website. I really like the Harley Benton stuff, man. Like I'm not rich enough to be buying Gibsons and Fenders every week, but when I want a solid guitar, I get a Harley Benton, and I got that bass around Christmas.
He sounds like an American German, Harley Benton.
Harley Benton. Sorry, that's a weird voice. Yeah.
Doesn't even sound German. Sounds like an American guy.
Well, I'm gonna really blow your mind now. They're actually Chinese, bro. They're manufactured in China. It's like there's like a music website called Thomann. It's like a German, like they sell like all sorts of stuff. Really good website. Customer service team, spot on, mate. They're not very funny. They don't really get British humour, but they're bloody efficient. Absolutely efficient, really are, mate. Like the guy, there's one guy called Thomas Kraup, who like I've spoken to like probably like I've probably spoken to him like 3 times over the past 2 years because I've got an electric guitar back there and then I've got that bass, and he seems to be like the man for customer service around there. And the first time I spoke to him, I was like, oh, he was great. Yo, he set my mind at ease. He gave me so much information, like really helpful. And then the second time I saw his name on like when I was getting the bass and I had like a little issue that needed sorting out, I saw his name and I was like, I'm in safe hands. I'm in safe hands. I was like, come on, help me, man.
Help you out.
Yeah.
It's all right. You're hanging yourself on that fishing line.
Yeah, man.
What if he turned out to be the least efficient guy ever, but he was hilarious?
I'd still take it. I'd take it, mate.
They exist. The Germans exist, like flamboyant, funny guys with no practicality at all.
Yeah, I'll still take it, bro. I'm happy for either someone to be incredibly like fun-loving and like spontaneous and like hilarious, but not efficient at all. Or I take efficient but like completely dead inside. I won't have anything in the middle. I don't want that mid-ground, mate. I want full balls to the wall chaos, or I want like briefcases and spreadsheets. That's what I'm saying.
I want that balance. I want them to be able to like do me a spreadsheet with some jokes in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Column for jokes.
No, it's like a flow chart for a joke. Like, do you know why the chicken crossed the road? If yes, proceed to end. If no, fucking flow chart for jokes, mate. That would be a very like European comedy set. That would.
It would. It is. That is like the stereotype of a German comedian, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, all of Europe, to be honest with you, mate. Like they're all very efficient.
Yeah.
The French, not so much, but
Swedish, Norwegian. Let's just go over all the stereotypes.
Yeah,
Get it done.
Yeah,
Get it all done now.
No disrespect meant, of course. I keep forgetting that we're going to put this out on the internet, and this isn't just like a chat that we're having. So
no, it's funny to play around with stereotypes. Like, as long as you don't believe said stereotype is actually true, then it's funny if you play around with it. Because, well, not all stereotypes, because some are just, you know, no-go zones. But
yeah,
you know,
but then on the flip side of it, though, some stereotypes are true.
Well, they are, and there is a case for why did they become a stereotype in the first place? Because there was enough people that were doing or acting in that way for it to become a thing. Well, then, of course, there are also a lot of people that weren't acting that way that are getting dubbed with the same brush. So it's kind of like,
we have that thing over here, though, where it's kind of like, I guess it's almost like taking the piss out of ourselves in a way, where we say, like, the British are really good at queuing. And, like,
yeah, being polite.
If you spend any time in New York, mate, the Americans aren't very good at queuing. I'm sorry, I've just got to say it, bro. They're just not very good at queuing. I went into a McDonald's on Times Square. It was a fucking free-for-all, mate.
You know what, though? I reckon it's like, as much as it's like a cultural thing, it's also like, you probably get a bit of that in London or in like certain areas or certain places. Do you know what I mean? But I tell you what, have you ever waited for a bus with an old Greek lady? Because they'll push you out of the way, mate. They'll smack you with a walking stick on the way to getting on that bus. Yeah, I'm not even joking. They're militant.
It's not just old Greek ladies, bro. It's old like ladies, old people in general. Like, but do you know what though? I'm happy to let them on first because they're not going to be going through the same seat I am, bro. I'm trying to go upstairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
Let them on, bro.
Let them on. No, but this is the thing. It's before you get a chance to let her on, she's already whacking you like, "Let me pass."
Yeah,
like this is a conversation.
That's fine, bro. Let her on. Don't be ageist.
Probably loads of lovely Greek ladies that are just, you know, wave you on. But you know, she was a piece of work, mate. See, this is the thing, though. This is the thing. Like, stereotypes can be like localized, can't they, to like one experience of one person, and then, or it can be, and it can be spread through word of mouth, and then it becomes a thing, and it's just like it's mad. They're a mad thing. Generalization in general is just nuts, isn't it? It's just it's a crazy concept because it's such a common theme of like human conversation.
Well, I mean, this is kind of getting into the realms of like why racism's so fucking retarded, right? Like
exactly.
We like there's people out there who are like, oh, all black people are X thing. And I'm like, okay, well, why do you think that? And it's like, well, because there was that one time. And I'm like, yeah, but what one person doesn't equal like however many billion people there are of that persuasion or of that genre, right? Like, I don't know why I'm saying that races are genres, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
it's the same. You can apply the same rule to anything, whether it's, you know, I hate all rock music because I heard that one rock song was bad.
Yeah.
I hate all rap music because they all talk rubbish. Well, actually, if you listen to the whole genre carefully, you might see there's some really interesting social commentary there and political commentary and all sorts. And it's the same, and it's the same with race. And then it's like race works obviously both ways as well, doesn't it? Like, not all white people are racist just because white people have had a history of being racist. And like, as minority of white people have done awful things, it doesn't mean that every white person is going to be racist. And it's such a vicious circle because I think especially in Britain, if we look at the sort of racial history of Britain, like the families that have moved to Britain since the 70s or the Windrush generation and had a real awful time in like the first few generations of being in England, and then they're naturally going to think that a lot of white people are racist because they've had a lot of experiences personally in their life where they've had that directly from those people, and then it's like you can't blame them for having that feeling. And the same with Asian people, same with anyone, any kind of migrant. And now you've got like all the Eastern Europeans and Polish people coming through, and I'm sure they have similar experiences. And it can just cause such a bubble of hostility, and it's just beautiful when you see the people that cut through that, and it's just like you still see the love towards everybody, even when they've been through horrible situations. They know that not every white person or black person or Asian person is like that, and it's just kind of, so how do we eradicate it in society is a good question.
I mean, I guess sorry, go on, you continue.
No, I guess just trying to educate people, isn't it? And like educate the people with sort of small-minded views. Because I think as well, it's sort of like institutional racism, and there's also like sort of family generational racism, where you get like racist views passed on from one generation to the next through the father and mother to the children, and it's like you're brought up in this environment of views, and it's kind of like I hope that this kind of new generation or two that's coming up now with so much more exposure to the wide world is gonna kind of pick up so many different views, and kind of get a much more broad understanding of what life is and what people are, and leave those views behind, you know. And I hope we'll see some steps away from it.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Like I was having a conversation about this with a guy at work earlier on, actually. Like, just to the point of how do you educate people? Yeah, I think you're right. Like there is like systemic and institutional racism. That's a separate beast. But the one that like you or I could start dealing with more effectively is just like citizens and like, you know, fellow human beings. It's like the generational, like ignorant racism. And I think the only like honest way to do that is probably just by conversation. And like, you know, like the current climate online is very much sort of, we have our teams, we have our side. This is the line in the sand. I'm on this side, you're on that side. Let's go to battle. But it don't work, man, because all it does is piss each other off, and that's when we see that hostility start to bubble up more. Whereas, like, if you have like a guy who goes on Facebook and says X racist thing, then generally it's going to get screenshotted by someone who's a bit sort of, you know, on the other side of the argument. I mean, it even works the other way around. Like if someone goes out on Facebook and says something that's like arguably a bit like virtue signaling, or, you know, very sort of left leaning and liberal in its tone, someone from the right might screenshot that. Next thing you know, it's going all over everybody's Facebook, and everyone's like, oh, this guy's a pig, this guy's a softie, this guy's a snowflake, this guy's a Nazi. Where it's like, you over there calling him that, that's just pissing him off. You over there calling him that, that's just pissing him off. You're just pissing each other off. You're not going to be able to sort a problem out with two pissed off people.
Yeah.
Whereas the reasonable people, like, you know, I like to think that you and me are quite reasonable in a way. Me more so.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
See, but it takes reasonable people to come to either one of those two guys and say, look, like, maybe, like, you know, you say to the right-wing racist guy, you're like, maybe, you know, they don't all look the same. And then you turn to the guy on the left and you're like, maybe, like, you know, I don't know, man, to be fair, like, there's not really many left-wing arguments that are as bad as that other one, but you see the point. Like, you just say, look, man, like, he's obviously got a right to a view, he's obviously got a right to a view. Why don't the two of you listen to each other and see what you actually agree on? Because there's a lot of shit here that you disagree about, but I guarantee that if you talk to each other, you'll find a lot of shit that you agree about as well. I
kind of, a lot of it might be like as well, you know, when you have if you have a conversation with someone that you really disagree with, and it's like your kind of instinct might be to shout at them or call them names. You disgusting pig! How dare you say that? You know, if you perhaps, not after what you instinctively want to do, but if you perhaps went, why do you have that opinion? Like, let's get to the root cause of why you have that opinion.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's be civilized.
And let's try, and you could say, oh, these people are too stupid to, you know, have this conversation with, or there's just no reason in them. But if you assume that everyone's got a certain amount of, you know, capacity to be able to reflect on what they've said or what they've done, and just maybe try and change that, then you could make some more some more roads to a better society if people just kind of a bit more understanding of each other and try and get to the root causes of all these opinions that just kind of get scattered about.
We've got to learn how to forgive as well. Like, we've got to learn how to forgive, man. Like, you know what? I can't stand those guys that I was sort of making a joke a minute ago, but there are guys out there that say shit like, oh, they all look the same. I fucking hate that shit, man. But if there's a chance that maybe they're willing to see the other side of that argument and see why what they're saying is like atrocious, you know what I mean? It's not cool. If they're willing to see it, then I've got to be willing to try and help. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's about if you can turn someone from somebody that's someone that is originally sort of detests you in their attitudes and behaviours to someone that you can actually have a reasonable conversation with, and you can kind of try and tutor some of that stuff out of them in not a kind of like, you need to change and think this, in a kind of, why do you think that way? Well, what about if that isn't actually true, and if there's actually all of this stuff going on that's completely the opposite of what you think?
Yeah,
and what
absolutely.
if the reason for this is that, and the reason for this is this, and that's why this happens, because of all of this? And people oversimplify things a lot of the time, and they just like to say this is that, that is that, but life's so complicated, and there's so many reasons behind the way society is, and the way people view society. And yeah, it'd be, I think, a lot, in terms of how we can like actually constructively make it better. Sometimes it's just, you might have a group, a wide group. You might have like close 5 friends, or a few friends that you kind of contact regularly, right? But then you might have 10, 15, 20, 30 acquaintances that you might see now and again at social events. And, it's just kind of calling somebody out on it. If they make a comment and go, whoa, what did you just say there, mate?
Yeah.
That's not all right. Like,
but in a constructive way, though. Like, this is this is where that's the difference, though, in the scenarios, bro. You're saying if this is like in person, or even in like a kind of smaller, like if it's online, like a group chat or something. You know what I mean? Like, these are, it's more intimate interactions, though, isn't it? It's more isolated. If it's on like a public forum, then it's just going to get dogged and everyone's going to jump on it. Whereas if it's you and me, I can just say to you, yo, man, what are you saying that for, bro? It's not right. Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out.
And I think on a localized level, that's where people can make a difference. Where it's like, have, say, 30, 50 people I kind of know, where I bump into them, and I can have a conversation. I've not seen them for a while, whatever. If they like make a joke and they think it's funny, and you like are brave enough to go, whoa, like, actually, I'm going to risk our kind of acquaintance / friendship to go, actually, that's not funny. Like, why are you making that joke?
Yeah.
Like, and then it makes them think twice about telling the joke again, but it also makes them think about, maybe everyone doesn't think how I think in my little circle of friends, that saying that's all right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
we're
because a lot of the time people, they think within their closed little, just within their closed little friendship group, they think, this is acceptable, but they wouldn't say it in the outer world, but they would say it to people that they feel would be on that bandwagon with them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, whoa, if you kind of go, just challenge people and just make people think about it, and then you might get a constructive conversation out of it. You know what I
mean? Yeah, and people have a bit of a habit to sort of like kind of almost, if something works for them, then they kind of lean into it, right? Like, you see it all the time in like media where someone has X ideology or whatever for a long time, and then they say something against that ideology, and it might be like from sort of an opposing thing. They get a bit of love for it, and they kind of lean into it because they're like, oh, this is a new market for me. And I think people are inclined to do the same thing because
I guess that's kind of how personalities are built, isn't it? In a sense, it's like people kind of
based on what validates you, right?
Yeah, because I guess through whether it's school or whatever, people kind of understand what their role is going to be within, whether it's the class, whether it's the group. Are you the class joker? Are you the clever guy? Are you the guy that just gets on with his work? Are you the guy that doesn't say much? Or do you know what I mean? And people kind of find where they fit in, and then find these little bridges to the next place, the next place, the next place, and then they get comfortable in this little zone where they think, that's me, that's my identity. I'm this guy, I'm that guy. And
What kind of guy
Unless
were
there's so
you?
many. Well, I was a dickhead, mate.
Oh yeah, you was judo chopping mans and shit, weren't you?
No, I was actually a nice kid. I was a nice kid. To be honest, like at primary school, I was just a pretty quiet kid. I don't know. I was a sports guy. I was like the captain of the football team, I guess, at primary school. But our football team was terrible. We were like the Brentford rejects, man. Like I was only captain because nobody else played football at my team.
Where did you go again? Red Hill?
I went Claremont. This is like my in Carrington at primary school, and I went to Frank Sealy at secondary school.
Yeah.
That was weird in itself because that was like going from an inner city school where there was like, I don't know, 20% white people or something like that at Claremont. And like my whole area was like mostly ethnic minority people. It was like really multicultural. And that was my life until I was 13. That was my life. That's how I thought the world was really. And then from that school to Frank Sealy, which is like outside of the city boundary, in a little village, it's like, it was probably like 10% ethnic minority people, 90% white people. And it felt weird for me. It was like a real adjustment period to get used to that. And then I think in year 7, I was a bit of I tried to be a bit of the class clown, like tell jokes, and I wasn't always the nicest person. I've got lots of memories of taking the mickey out of people when I shouldn't have done, and being a bit of a dick, to be honest, and being on like, I don't think I was like nasty. I was just trying to fit in and find a way that I fitted into the class with my insecurities, and then probably made me act in a way that was stupid and a bit immature. But I was generally a nice kid. I was just a bit of a twat at times. Yeah. And then I was on like red report, yellow report, all the way until like year 9 until I sorted myself out my GCSEs in year 10. But and in fact, you know what's weird, right? This is actually I never actually thought about this until this moment. But I kind of, after quitting judo and all that stuff, I started playing football, and then that was like my thing. And then like, I really put my everything into football, and I had trials for Notts County when I was 13, and I wasn't good enough, essentially. So it was like, that dream kind of died when I was 13. I kind of went back to playing like regional football, local football, and couldn't even get in that team. And I just thought, I'm not good enough. There's no point in playing. So I gave it up at that 13, started smoking weed and started MCing. And lo and behold, maybe it was the weed. It calmed me down. The music and the weed perhaps combined. And I started getting on all my schoolwork. I didn't have any more fights in like year 10 and year 11. I used to fight every like week almost at school. It's like I had like a magnet on me. I feel like some people go through school and they never have any fights, and they're just like, their identity is cool. People kind of like them. I felt like everyone hated me. Maybe I was just a dick, but I felt like everyone wanted to like fight me, and then it was like, or call my names, and then I just had a hard time, man, until like year 9 at school. That's why I was always on reporters, like fighting or whatever, and then. Music I bet it was music kind of saved me. Maybe it kind of gave me a direction where I was like, I stopped hanging out with those kind of people that perhaps weren't very nice to me really, and were kind of sort of like, because you get bullying within friendship groups and stuff as well, do you know what I mean? And I was probably getting a bit bullied really within friendship groups and stuff, so I stopped hanging out with those people, started getting new friends in like year 9, started smoking weed and MCing, and then I chilled out and I just concentrated on my music. And people left me alone. Actually, when I started wearing a flat peak and started being a bit of a wannabe gangster, people left me alone. So it worked. Plus, there's no one left to fight.
Yeah. You was Habib at that point, bro. You was the.
I was Habib. I was
or
like
Sean Gormagomedov. I don't know.
55 and 5. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's great. No, but school is just it's a crazy place, isn't it, man? It's like chucking your kids into the jungle and just saying like survival of the fittest. Like, kids are horrible, man. I feel like
I hate it.
in the world.
I hate it.
Yeah, I was going. How was it for you? How did you fit in? What school did you go to? I've never talked about it.
I went Bigwood, bro. Cause
yeah, it was a tough school, man.
So like weird. I don't know. Like growing up in like Warren Hill, Top Valley. There was always a pretty like diverse mix of ethnicities. So I was just thinking about it because obviously you were saying that like your first school was like mostly ethnic minorities that you was around. Like you was like as the white kid, kind of the minority. And then when you went to a predominantly white school, it was weird. Like I both of my schools were pretty well mixed. On maybe primary school wasn't, but then. secondary school when I went big, that was pretty evenly mixed. There were some characters in school. You know what? Like, I always thought that when I started playing guitar, it kind of put me on the map a little bit. And it didn't. It didn't, bro.
Well, like the school map of like you're cool now, like you've got a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that it really did for me at school was there was some good times because of it. Like, it was mostly outside of school. I was in a band outside of school, and that was where I had like the real good times with music at that point in my life, when I was probably like 13, 14. But in school, like, there was only like a couple of like decent things that came out of it. Got to play in like a couple of shows at school, and like they put me in the gifted and talented program for some reason. I was like, but I'm not gifted. But they was like, no, but it's because you're talented because you play guitar. And I'm like, yeah, look at these guys around me though. These are all like straight A fucking kids, man. Like, these are all like doing really well with their work, and I do not do well with my work. I was a dosser, mate. Absolute dosser at school. I regret it a little bit, honestly, because you don't think about it at the time, but like, it is actually important. You know what I mean? If I'd respected it more when I was at school, I think life could have been. I don't want my life to have been any different, to be fair, but maybe I'd just like to be better at maths. You know.
I know what you mean, mate, but I don't know. It's kind of like hindsight's a wonderful thing and everything, and it's,
yeah, of course.
You can say I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, but you had your journey. Do you know what I mean? And it's brought you to who you are now.
And you know what, like without wanting to like get too bogged down in like matters of mental health as like a first podcast episode, we've gone pretty heavy with it so far, but
unintentionally, just flowed,
yeah,
man.
it just flowed, mate. I love it. But I don't want to go like too deep into this kind of thing just yet. But like, I struggled a lot when I was a bit younger. You know what I mean? Like, probably through my 20s. I'm 29 now, so I'm on the cusp of being 30 this year, and I struggled a lot mentally throughout that time. But like, today now, I'm like the best version of me that is completely different to who I was back in school. I don't necessarily like that guy back in school. When I look back on him, I'm like, he was a bit of a dick, to be honest with you. He made a lot of bad choices. But I kind of owe it to him, really, because here I am, mate. You know what I mean? I'm happy with where I am now. I've got a fucking good family around me. I'm surrounded by love and positivity, and that's about as much as someone can ask for, really, isn't it? Get to do late night chats with my good pal Sean. Get to do this, that, and the other. You know, we got good music going on, mate. We've got some good things that we're working on. Yeah. Life's good, baby. Life's good. So it's funny. I was thinking about school the other day, innit? And I had that exact same train of thought where I was like, oh, school was tough. Like, I had like a lot of people fall out with me. I wasn't like a fighting kid. I wasn't one of them that was always in scraps. I smashed a kid's head against a plant pot once. That was interesting.
Still in bed.
Oh, yeah. It's all good, bro. He deserved it anyway. And like, the only reason I didn't get kicked out of school for that was because it happened right in front of the IT, like the head of IT, happened right outside of his office, and he vouched for me to the head teacher, saying, "I've never seen him act like that. I've never seen his brother act like that," because my brother was in a couple of years above me. So obviously everyone at that school, all the teachers knew my brother before they knew me. Yeah, there was like, I've never seen him act like that before. For him to look the way that he did, that other kid, Daniel, his name was, I won't go into last names, Jones. No, I'm joking. It wasn't really Jones. It was like, for him to get to that point, Daniel must have really done something. He must have really done something to piss me off. And like, my head teacher, shout out Mr. Aldred, by the way, bad boy. My head teacher was like, all right, you've got a few days excluded, and then you're going to be. Did you have like an isolation thing at your school?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I loved it. I did. It was fucking peng, mate. Just sit there for 8 hours, do nothing.
It was peaceful, mate. It was very peaceful.
Beautiful.
If only they taught us to meditate at, secondary school, would have been well away.
I just, honestly, mate, like that week, I was going to go see I think it was that week anyway. I was definitely in isolation for this week because like me and my dad had bought tickets to. Well, my dad had bought the tickets. I was like fucking 14, man. I wasn't buying no tickets. He bought tickets for us to go see a band called Rush, which is like, I don't know if you've heard of them, like old school, sort of like 70s progressive rock band. Really good band. Like, absolutely adore him. But he got us tickets to go see him, and it was in Sheffield that week. And like, I was in the isolation thing for a full week. And honestly, the only way that I got through it was I just like sat there for like 5 days straight for like 8 hours, just thinking about how that show was going to be. I was like, oh, what order are they going to play these songs in? What are they going to do? You know, what's the stage show going to be like? How many drums is Neil Peart going to have on stage? Turned out it was like 86 or something, bro. Guys like surrounded with drums. Rest in peace, Neil Peart, by the way. Bless him. Fucking, yeah, like, when I got to the end of that week, I went to see that show with my dad in Sheffield, and it was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. It was like, still to this day, there's certain bits where I think about when I start getting fucking goosebumps and shit. Like, it was amazing. And that, I always say, like music got me through the most boring week I've ever had in my life. But looking back on it now, it's actually like one of the pengiest weeks I've had in my life because I literally did nothing for 8 hours on days where I would be doing something normally.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Sometimes, for some kids, it's not a punishment. That's the thing. Like, they think it's a punishment, but some kids actually do naughty stuff to get put in isolation because they prefer it.
There was one kid in there who was like in there every week, and it got to a point where like the teacher who used to run it, she was like, "Sorry, that's Luke's seat." Luke would come in and he'd be like, "Oh shit, you're in my seat." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, bro. I'll move over there, I guess." Madness, man. He used to just like sit. He just used to sit there chatting to her, bro. I think he was chatting her up actually, thinking about it. I was a bit oblivious to this kind of thing when I was a young man. I had only love for music, and then I actually started pulling girls, and I started realizing I had love for girls as well.
Oh mate, I was like the least Casanova guy at school.
Oh, bro, I was as well. I was fat as fuck, and I dyed my fringe orange once as well. I thought I was trying to be like a little emo kid or something, bro.
Nice. Good luck, strong luck.
No, not really. Not really. I'll have to find some pictures of that at some point. I'll dig them
I'd love
out,
to
bro.
see that. I'd love to see it. Yeah, I had 0 girlfriends at secondary school. Well, actually, I tell you, I had a girlfriend for about half a day at American Adventure. And it's funny how this works, because I remember fancying this girl like mad for like, and I did try with girls in the first like couple of years, like asked them out and they generally said no, and then I gave up on it. And then this girl said no like 3 or 4 times, and then I was like, yeah, fuck this girl, man, I'm not interested anymore. So I just, like, in my mind, I didn't fancy her anymore at this point. By the time we got to American Adventure, like 2-3 months later, but in her mind, she's had all that time to think about it, and then apparently she fancies me, and I'm like completely not on it anymore. I'm just like, yeah, like, I used to really like you, but I genuinely don't like you anymore. I got rejected by that many times that I probably started to hate her. Like, I don't like you anymore.
Oh,
This is another girl. Nothing wrong with the girl, by the way. This is just my head. But anyway, I remember I was like going around American Adventure with a couple of mates, and they both had their girlfriends with them, and she was with them, and I was with him, but we weren't together. So I know it was just a convenience. But anyway, she asked me out like via mate, and then I like accepted via my mates who were like, yeah, go on, and then it's like the most, you know,
like wrapping up little bits of paper and like passing to them, and they're like swallowing it. So I'll make sure this gets to where it needs to be.
Mate, and like, I kid you not, right? I remember sitting next to her on like the log flume or whatever it was, like the rapids, and it was the most awkward thing ever. Like, we were meant to, like, everyone else was holding hands, and we were like supposed to hold hands, and it just felt wrong. It just didn't feel like we were meant to. It just felt like so forced, and we didn't like talk to each other for the whole time. And then on the bus home, I passed down a message down the bus to dump her, which is so bad, isn't it? I mean, I was year 7. I was 11 years old.
Oh, no, that's fine then. I was going to say, if you was doing that shit like year 11, it's like, oh, dating when you're 23 is hard.
You're not by then, mate. Like school, I was that guy at the school disco who was like in the canteen with my 4 in-betweener mates that were like, yeah, good disco,
Man's
isn't
got
it?
like hair like that, yeah. Got that fucking giant quiff, you know what I'm saying?
Mate, I actually did bust. I used to have like the quiff. I used to have like the gelled quiff, like this, the proper short back and sides with like the gelled quiff. And I remember one school disco specifically. Uh, my uncle was a really cool guy, and he got me these like Converse before they were like cool. Like they weren't cool in England yet. But he got them from TK Maxx when TK Maxx first came out, and I was like, yeah, these are great. And he got me this like Calvin Klein red shirt that was kind of like shiny. And I thought it was the best thing ever. I'm like, my uncle was the coolest uncle. He's got me the coolest outfit for school disco, and I couldn't wait to show it off.
Going to that disco looking like Bruce Buffy, yeah.
Me, I thought so. I thought I was going to be the 360 all over the dance floor, mate. But it didn't happen. I just got pointed at and laughed at, and everyone was like, "Cool, what did they call?" Well, if this is the thing, actually, your memory is like everyone laughed at me, but really it was like the funny guy who was always a dickhead to you. He was like, "Yo, you look like a sailor," and then everyone else starts laughing at you, and then it's like everyone was calling you Sailor Boy because you changed. I was like, one day you'll all be wearing these, and I'll be laughing, and I guess that's hey, it's because everyone's wearing Converse these days, and I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, mate. You moved on.
You moved on, mate.
You ploughed the field and scattered, bro. You did it. I used to think I was the bee's knees when I went to school on like non-uniform day. It's Little In's non-uniform day tomorrow because it's a comic relief, isn't it? I was thinking about this earlier as well. I used to think I was the bee's knees because like non-uniform day, I'd wear I've always worn like caps and shit all throughout my life. But like, there was one back when I was like year 4 maybe, and there was a girl that I really fancied called Jenny. I really had a crush on her when I was 4. In fact, like we went out at one point. It was like one of them like year 4 going out as well. And like where like it's just sort of like you stood on either end of the playground and like you're talking to your boys and you're like, yo man.
Wow.
I think she's sweet. But like, do you know what I used to do, bro? Like, I'd be walking through the fucking playground, and I'd go like this, innit? Go like this.
Just to flick it up and just to get her attention.
Dead in the eyes, just bop. But the hat had Tweety Bird on it, bro.
Oh, absolutely killing me.
I mean, to be fair, I've not progressed much. This hat's got Goofy on it, mate.
Oh, mate, the Goofy movie is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, that's a depressing movie, bro.
Bro, it's real, man. It's real.
Dark movie. It's great though.
It's so sick though. Like it's real, man. Do you know what? I think what made it more like real for me is like my dad used to take me fishing, and when I was growing up until I was 13, I just used to sort of see my dad at the weekends and on a Wednesday because my mum and dad broke up when I was like 1. So I didn't spend a whole of a lot of time with him other than like football and fishing. So it was like for me watching that as a little kid, it was like, I'm going fishing with my dad for a week, and then they fall out, and it's like, no, you can't fall out. It's your dad. Yeah. And then now me and my dad are like ultra close, and kind of like moved in half a week when I was 13, and we've got a great relationship now. But you know, that film used to hit hard for me, man. It really did.
I think most like boys fall out with the dads when they're sort of coming of age. You know what I mean?
Oh, it happens. We've had our tough moments, but
yeah,
you get through it.
Family falls out all the time anyway. That's kind of what family does. What was it?
You know what the Goofy movie has in it also? It's full circle because it's also got, he wants to be a musician and he's like basically Michael Jackson. It had everything for me. It had everything for me, you know. I love that film. So yeah, and I saw your Space Jam hoodie today as well on your Instagram post, and I was like, Space Jam, Goofy movie.
Space Jam is like I think Space Jam is like all-time top 3 films for me. Like there used to be a point in my life where like if I closed my eyes and just like really try and listen gently, all I can hear in my ear is "Come on, Islam, and welcome to religion." It was like my inner monologue for a solid like 5 years. And this is when I was like 25, bro, as well.
I'm thinking like this is when you're like
no.
8 and you've got like curtains and you're in bed. No, this is like it.
I feel like when I first watched that film, like we went to the cinema to see it. Where was it now? I think it was like York or somewhere. We was on holiday, and like we'd ran out of shit to do in the evening. So Mum was like, "Oh, do you want to go see a film?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she was like, "Oh, I don't know what we're gonna watch." I must have been like 8 or something. She was, "I don't know what we're gonna watch." She knew full well I was gonna go watch Space Jam. Like she knew that I was gassed about it as well, because I was I was a Looney Tunes kid, bro. I love Looney Tunes. But like we got there and like Space Jam starts coming on. I was like, I feel like when it was finished, I turned to Mum and I was like, "Tell him to put it on again." She's like, "Yeah, we can't do that." I'm like, I said, tell him to put it on again.
I hope she slapped you at that point. Slapped the popcorn at you.
I don't know if I spoke like that. I'd like to say that I've never spoken to my mum like that, but to be fair, I was a bit of a dickhead when I was a teenager.
Oh,
yeah, a bit of a dickhead. But you know, I think most teenagers are a bit of a dickhead in their own right. Like,
yeah, I mean, I was always like really respectful to my mum, but I also did some really stupid things that like weren't good for her. Do you know what I mean? Well, they weren't intentionally disrespectful, but they were disrespectful and they were bad. So I've let down my mum in lots of ways, to be honest.
I think it's part of life to just like let down. I think it's just part of life that you let down people that you care about at some point. You can't always be perfect, and you got to learn how to be good as well. And the only way you can learn how to be good is to be a shit sometimes.
Yeah, it's true, man.
What do you think your little one's going to be like when she's a teenager?
Good question, mate, because she's kind of on the verge of like that kind of space. Like she's nearly 10, and I'm starting to see those kind of attitudes in her. In fact, to be honest with you, like school does it, because I think a lot of her friends are into TikTok, and they're 9, but they're 9 or 10, but they're like 13 or 14 in some ways. They're like makeup and dancing to the TikTok videos, and she's still like really like innocent, bless her. And that's like I'm proud of that, because well, it's not just me, it's just her nature. Like she just loves playing with like her toys, and she's really imaginative. And she's just, honestly, I'm not just saying because she's my daughter, she's just a really sweet girl. Like she's just lovely. But I'm starting to see some of the attitude that might come with hormones, with exposure to other girls that speak in certain ways, and it's like managing that. And I think her mum's probably going to get it worse, because her mum's going to get it after school in the week when she's perhaps had a bad day, and then she's also female, so there's that like kind of battle between like tiger and tigress, like when queen tiger and the rising female tiger that comes up, and they kind of battle at some point, but I knew we actually had a conversation with mum about this the other day, about me kind of getting the good bits the weekends, which I kind of, when I used to have her from Sunday to Tuesday, Sunday to Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday to Wednesday, I had her until she was like 7. But then I know I've not got a car, I just can't drive her to school, which is 15 miles away. So yeah, I am lucky in respect that even though I've dropped a night, like I've gone from 3 nights to 2 nights, but I get to see her more than I have like quality time. I've just got all weekend with her, so I get to see all the good stuff, really. I mean, she still, has her moments, but yeah. What about Alice? What do you think she's going to be like? Long way off,
but I don't know. I'm worried about it though. I'm scared. Real scared, mate. She's
thing is, man.
Do you know what it is? Like she's obviously just as like stepdad. I can't. I guess like she picks up some personality traits off me, and I'm a bit of a mod ass sometimes. I get a bit like grouchy about stuff, so I think that kind of rubs off in a way. But like in terms of like genetics, like both her biological parents are drama students.
Okay.
So I mean, it's kind of one of them, and I've got a battle on my hands. I feel I'm gonna have a battle on my hands. It's a bit weird with a girl like Al's age, because she's 5, But it's not just that she's 5, it's that she's 5 in this climate with like the pandemic and everything. Because I can't remember, obviously, like my memory is not like infallible, but I feel like back when I was that age, I was spending time around other kids my age, and I was actually learning like social cues and how to play with kids from other kids, and like all of those kids were sort of learning together. Like it's like nursery, school, like play groups and play dates and shit. Like because like my mum had like friends who also had kids, and like also I had a brother as well, so like we sort of had each other quite a lot. Like I was an only child, and she's a child of this pandemic, unfortunately. So I feel like a lot of those like crucial growth moments and like opportunities to like really start developing who she is, I feel like it's been hindered in a way by the fact that she can't easily access other kids. You know what I mean? Um, and I feel sorry for any kid going through this, you know, like any kid that age going, like, you know, like you're little and she's like you say, she's coming up for 10. She's already started learning that. She's already started becoming like a, you know, she's on her way to becoming a young woman at this point. Like she's still a child, but like where she is, she's going to be starting to become her own person soon. Alice still relies on parents and grandparents, and unfortunately she's had to rely on us for all of her social interaction. And you know, like I got hit by the furlough last year for a couple of months, but I didn't you know, I didn't it was just me and Alice every day, which was absolutely blessed for me. I loved spending every day with her. It was amazing. There were some hard points where, you know, I guess like the isolation of it all kind of got the better of us, and we might have fallen out a few times, but you fall out with a kid anyway. It's just sort of par for the course of parenting. You've got to put your foot down sometimes and say no, innit? But by and large, it was great just to be able to actually have that time with her. I'll never want to replace that. But I went back to work at a certain point. Like Charlotte never stopped working because she's a key worker, so she was constantly at work. So it was like the poor girl had to get all of her social interaction from 2 tired grown-ups who we weren't getting any fun ourselves. Like we had to just stay in all the time because it was lockdown. Like we couldn't do anything to enrich our lives. We were just working and coming home. And that was one thing that I learned actually, which is like how much of a difference it makes just being able to go into like the city centre on a Saturday and buy some clothes. Just something simple as that, like just to break the week up a little bit from working and going to sleep and eating and working and eating and going to sleep, and that's it. And I feel like the person who suffered the most, or the people who've suffered the most through all of this, is kids that age. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to undermine people who have lost someone, or like, you know, they've had their jobs taken from them or whatever. Like everyone's had a really bad time, but the people who are going to suffer the most through all of this is that generation there of all those 5 and 6 year olds at the minute, who they were just old enough for this to really screw with their development as people. They're just old enough. Like a 1-year-old now ain't a problem. Like 8-year-old now ain't a problem. They've already started learning. 1-year-old ain't going to be doing shit anyway. They can't even hold their head up for more than 5 minutes. Like, but kids that age, bro, they can't. What can they do? Nothing.
At the same time, though, the flip side, it's been good for them to know that they have to adapt to situations, and that not things don't always go to plan, and sometimes you have to kind of do something different. And they also would have got, I guess, if the ones that haven't really, you know, been to school much and they've been at home, they've got a lot of adult stimulation, which has probably brought them on in other ways and matured them.
But I mean, that's true. The only thing I would say to sort of push back, well, in fact, yeah, it is true. And if I am pushing back, I would say, like, as a parent, you don't ever want your kid to go through anything rough, right?
You
you
don't, but
don't.
you don't want them to hurt, but you need them to learn. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's looking on the
Yeah,
positive side of it. It's been like, there's been bad times. Well, to be honest with you, for me personally, I felt really lucky because I got furloughed. Well, her, Imogen's mum was a key worker. She had to go to work, and I was furloughed, so I got to have Imogen for like 3 months, like all the time. And I think by the end of it, Imogen was definitely ready to go back to school. Like we had some great quality time with each other, but by the end of it, she was ready to get that interaction again. I guess it's like anyone needs that interaction, but it's perhaps a little bit more intensified with a child, isn't it? Because they kind of live life at a faster pace than us. They learn at a faster pace. They do everything at a faster pace. So yeah, having their life stagnated for a longer period of time is probably a lot more detrimental to them than it is to an adult. It's true.
yeah, and I agree. I think like those like lessons of having to adapt. I don't know, man. I just feel like no, fine.
You wouldn't really want it for them at this
No, I
age.
don't. I just don't think that it's right that a 5-year-old has to go through it. When you're 5, you don't have to. You shouldn't have to worry about stuff. Yeah, maybe when a kid's 8 or 9, like you start giving them a bit more responsibility, and you start saying, like, look, you're gonna help me set the table. You know what I mean? You're gonna help me do the dishes. 5-year-old though, bro. I don't know, man. I think a 5-year-old should just be a 5-year-old, carefree.
It's just life, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
life.
it
It's
is.
just things happen.
It is.
Things happen.
Like I say, it's just an irrational thing as a parent where you just sort of you feel angry almost that it had to happen to your kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean it's been bad for all of them. I think of the GCSE, kids, and I think they're the ones that have got actually hit the worst. Is the people that had like exams and like really important things they've been working for like 5 years, and then suddenly they can't do it, or they're told that the teachers have to like predict the grades. That's been a really tough time for.
nah, that don't matter. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I know you don't care about GCSEs. I guess you care about school.
Yeah, I didn't care about it, but I think I feel to be fair, mate, like I said a minute ago, I'm not trying to diminish what other people have been through. It's been a shit time for everyone, bro. For like so many different reasons as well. Like, yeah, the GCSEs thing, mate, it's fucked. Could you imagine? Like, I didn't put any effort into those GCSEs, but if I had, I'd be so pissed off.
But I mean, it's like people work really hard for that, man, and it's not just that year; like they've worked the whole school life to prepare themselves for that moment, and then they get the exam taken away from them. Or it's like even people at uni who like the whole experience of uni is being able to go out and experience things and build relationships, and that's like 50% of uni, and they've had all that taken away from them. So it's been bad for so many people in so many ways, but I guess I always try and find a positive in everything, and the positive is kind of it just shows those people that life doesn't always go as you plan or expect it to. So you've kind of got to just make the best times out of whatever situation you end up in, and then when things do go well for you, then you appreciate it even more. Like I do think hopefully when society kind of gets back to like a more normal place, we'll all appreciate it a lot more than we won't take it for granted anymore, which is a good thing.
I mean, I've felt for a while now, there's never a bad time to plan for tomorrow, and I think like this pandemic has been a perfect time to plan for tomorrow. Like there's a lot of stuff that like I've been trying to get in place lately, like just in terms of like the back end of the household, like how things operate in your household and with your family and everything. There's a lot of pieces that we've been trying to put into place, and it's taken us a couple of years, but it's a bit of a peak thing to say considering the situation, but actually like having this past year of not being able to do anything, it's actually helped us in a way, because we haven't had to, I know it sounds like I said a minute ago, it's great to go to like the city centre on a Saturday and buy some clothes, but not being able to do that has given us the opportunity to save money, strangely.
Yeah, and also I think in terms of like people that would perhaps just consume themselves in that life of consumerism, and that's all they did was shop and spend money and consume, consume, consume. It's made them have to think outside the box and think, actually, there's all this other stuff over here that I can do within my own mind or within my own space or out in nature. And it's made so many people have got so much fitter and started exercising more, ironically, even when gyms closed, because they were starting to think, well, I need to actually do something with myself. I'm going stir crazy. So I think so many people have been sort of spurred on by it happening to them.
Well, I mean, me and you are a good example of this. Like, what did we do? We started writing albums, right?
Exactly. Literally, you know, that first album we wrote was all in the first lockdown, wasn't it? And it was we literally wouldn't have done that if we weren't on furlough at that time. I don't think we would have done that. I just don't. We wouldn't have had the time to initiate that. And that once you've got the ball rolling, it's kind of easier to be working and nipping into things in the evenings and stuff. But to have that opportunity thrust on you, where you're like, well, I'm not at work for like maybe a few months, like I can start to live my life in like a full way and start to get all those things I've been suppressing, or all those things that I've not had the time to do, get them on the road, and I've got no excuses now. This gives me like a platform to build on.
Yeah, that's it.
You know?
And I think as well, it for me at least, it gave me an opportunity to really analyze like what's important, like
for a lot of people,
what can go, what can stay, how is this thing or presence or influence going to benefit me, like kind of like related to it. There's a new thing that I do every day where I suppose this is a little bit off topic, but I started doing this recently. It's like I start my day by saying, what do I want the next 8 hours of my life to be like? Do I want to be in a good mood or a bad mood? And like 9 times out of 10, I want to be in a good mood. So I just be in a good mood, easy. But I didn't start doing that until I had nothing better to do with my time than focus on my mindset. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of a beautiful thing in a way, because it's
crucial for so many people. Yeah, it's great, man. Like I think so many people, you live at such a fast pace. I think the thing of like this Western culture and even Eastern culture now, it's becoming more like Western culture, is that it's so fast paced. It's like work, it's home, it's phone, it's TV, it's this, it's on one thing onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. It's so rare that people actually stop for a minute without a screen in front of them, without anything, and go, I'm actually maybe a bit bored of the screens for a bit. What does just living life with this stuff do? Like, why?
Have you seen? You've just reminded me of a scene from a very important movie. Have you ever seen Wall-E?
Wall-E, not Where's Wall-E?
No, like is it Wall-E or Wall-E? You know, the little robot dude.
Wall-E, the robot. Yeah, I have.
It's, you know that bit, because like on the ship where all the humans are and they're all like overweight on them like floating chairs and they're all in screens, and then there's like those two that turn the screens off and they're just like looking out into space at the beauty of it. Like it's an amazing.
Towards the end of it.
No, it's kind of like just getting into like the third act of the movie. It's like those two humans that both meet Wally or Wally or whatever. They both meet him, and they turn their screens off so they can talk to him. And he like fucks off because he's busy trying to find that white robot that he's got a crush on or whatever. She's a dickhead, by the way. No, I'm joking. But like they turn the screens off and they both like find each other and like fall in love. It's kind of like a little subplot of the film, but they've turned their screens off and they're sat like these like hover chairs are sort of like on tracks in it, and they're all going one direction, and everyone's just like on their screen, like ordering food and like talking to the guy next to him or whatever via the screen. But these two people have turned their screens off and they're just sat like looking out of the window of the ship and looking into like the expanse of space. And it's, I don't know, man, I feel like it's quite a beautiful little don't know whether you'd say like analogy or what. It's just like a really nice little nod to real life now, which is like everyone walks around like this, you know what I mean? Everyone's walking around like that. Whereas
Yeah, no,
I
it's
like
true,
to
man.
I like to keep my phone in my pocket and just look up sometimes and just think like, man, I'm small. You know what I mean?
Man, it's isn't it such a comforting thing though to do that? Like
Yeah.
sometimes our problems can seem so big because they're just stuck within our head and that's our existence. But to just, and do you know what really gets it for me? Like sometimes I'll go outside at night and the stars are out, and it's like no matter where you are on the earth, you can see that same, see
Excuse me.
the same sky, and it kind of make you think about how many billions of people there are, and you know you're just one person out of billions, and really, you know, your life, your opinions, your everything is just it's just so insignificant, and it just kind of makes me feel at one with the universe. I know that's a really, you know, hippie thing to say, but I'm a hippie. So it just makes me feel peaceful and grateful to be part of such an amazing place. You know, it's just incredible.
There is kind of a serenity that comes with insignificance, right?
There is. I mean, you know, this phrase always sticks with me. There is always a little bit of like a aching feeling, a kind of like an aching pain whenever you think of yourself. If you're like analyzing something you've done, or even when it's like we're going over our music and we're trying to make it as best as can, it's like almost agonizing because you're thinking so much of yourself, so much of like you and how good you want to be and all that. And it's great in one sense, like to be the best version of yourself, you need that. But in terms of like bliss and peacefulness, the opposite of that is just so nice to just forget about any of your ambitions, any of goals, and and that's I guess why so many people love films, you know, escapism, and gaming and anything that kind of makes you think about anything other than yourself.
Yeah.
And then there's also the enjoyment, though, I guess, of like watching things or playing games and seeing scenarios that remind you of your own life, and then living through those scenarios elsewhere. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but you know, the beauty in both things, the beauty in the self and beauty in the void that is everything else.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded that like this planet's gonna go around the sun X amount of times, right? Like the sun's always gonna come up. The sun's always gonna come up on that side, and the moon's always gonna come up on that side. You know?
Till it gets hit by a big comet and it's no more. You know, it's kind of like how many times is that going to happen? Do you know what's quite cool? Like a lot of
You
the
had
stuff
to
kind
you
of
had to
like
ruin the beauty of it, mate, by living so relentlessly in the real fucking world.
do you know what it is? I've watched. Have you ever seen these time lapses of the future things on YouTube? They're incredible.
I try and avoid them, mate. It gives me it gives me anxiety. It gives me conniptions, mate.
We're talking about like trillions of years in the future, or whatever they predict it's going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's amazing to see, like, you know, like our not even our lifespan, but the lifespan of the human race is like less than a second in this 10-minute film, which spans over like however many billion years. And it just kind of makes you think, well, like, yeah, in the kind of conceivable universe that we think there has been and may be, our sort of little tiny existence on this planet is such an insignificant thing. But in our minds, most of the time, it's like all there's ever been or all there ever will be. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that's kind of a crazy thing to get your head around.
Well,
I love
if you think that like our average lifespan's like what 85 years or something, like
yeah,
that's all it is, isn't it? In terms of the universe, bro, that's it.
It's like, and to us it feels like a long time, but then I guess probably never long enough, or maybe sometimes too long, depending on whatever your mindset is and whatever you've been through. But
well, I mean, this is kind of like where the that last tune on Great Lake, that's kind of where that's heading, I guess. That's kind of the inescapable thought, isn't it?
And do you know what's crazy though? It's kind of like people often say that like that mortality is quite a morbid thought, and I think it is initially, because what's amazing, I think a lot of times we forget we're going to die one day. Like, you know, just like living day to day, it kind of feels like it's never ending. It's just you get up again, and it's sometimes it's like, oh, another day at work, and it's like sometimes it's quite a freeing thought to think, wow, actually this isn't going to last forever. I better actually start making the most of this, because one day I'm going to be gone, and it's quite a beautiful thought at the same time, as it can be morbid. It's definitely got two aspects to it.
I mean, that's why we try and capitalize now, baby. Like, you only get one life.
Absolutely, you have to, and that's why we have this morbid fear of not being able to fulfill your potential within that time, isn't it?
But I guess that's kind of like where like the album of Great Lake came from, in a way. Like it was us exploring those thoughts, and that's kind of why I thought that it's fitting that like it should end on that particular song, without like betraying too much of what the album's going to end up sounding like. That particular song is like, doesn't matter what we think about or like what goes through our head, it all comes back to that same thought, which is that it's all going to end at some point.
Yeah.
What do we want to do before it does, right?
Before it ends. Like one thing is certain, right? We don't know what's going to happen when we die. We don't know if we just die and that's it, or if there's some other form of existence beyond death that we can't really conceive. We don't know. All that is certain is that we have this time to use, and then it's gone. Like, in this form of reality is going to be gone after that, as far as we know, right? So yeah, how do you use that in the best way? And also kind of like not stress yourself out too much about using it in the best way, and just enjoy it, as well as trying to maximize, the joy and experience you can get from it.
It's a nice deep place to go. I think getting to that topic, we should probably start looking at wrapping things up a little bit. I was going to suggest though, like I don't know if you ever listened to Lex Friedman's podcast. He's a terrific human being. I absolutely adore Lex Friedman.
Never heard of it.
Have you not? He's a Russian artificial intelligence scientist. There's probably a better word for it than what I've just given him there, but he's a Russian dude, works in AI, but recently kind of, he's making some real good waves in the podcast space. It appears on Joe Rogan quite a lot, but he's just like a next level human being, bro. I really think you'd enjoy his podcasts. They're always like incredibly like intellectual. He himself is just like so easy to listen to, but he's multifaceted. You see, like he's got like a very in-depth knowledge of Russian history, like World War II, for example. He's very, very clued up on World War II. Obviously, he programs artificial intelligence, and he's a very, very keen observer of that world. Guitarist. Trains Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
He likes whiskey. You know what I mean? He's just like all round a good dude. I really appreciate him as a human being. But the way that he always ends his podcast is he has some, like, I don't know if they're like the same questions of every person, but he's got like a few questions that sort of like just bookmark things nicely. You know what I mean? I was wondering if we could think of any quite like random little last questions to ask each other.
From the Mandalorian.
I have
spoken.
I have spoken.
I have spoken.
This is the way.
This is the way. I have spoken. I only had two topics in mind that I actually wanted to talk to you about, but we've not talked about because it's just where it's gone. And my headphones just told me it's nearly dead. So the one thing we've never discussed is AQUATIC APE, which is of course the name of our band and the podcast. And we've not actually talked about AQUATIC APE theory in itself.
No.
I haven't had that conversation with you, which is
maybe
quite interesting.
I'm not too read up on it though, mate. Honestly, I'm wondering if maybe we could pick that up in the next one once I can do some reading on it.
Yeah, and I'll send over. My headphones have just died, by the way, so I'm now just on the phone speaker. Yeah, I'll send over a documentary. I've just watched a couple of documentaries on it. It's really interesting. some of it very far-fetched, some of it very plausible, you know, and logical. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk to you about Blade Runner, because we've never talked about Blade Runner, but that can be for another time, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch that. I don't think I've actually seen 2049 all the way through either.
Oh man, have you seen the original?
I've seen the original a long time ago, though. A long time ago.
Watch them both, and I'm busting for a piss, so I'm gonna say I have spoken.
You have spoken. This is the way, mate. All right, bro.
Right.
Sound.
My brother.
Till next
Pleasure.
time, mate.